So it's official, we finally got the casting news for who's going to be appearing during Avengers Doomsday. However, with that 5-hour live stream that Marvel was doing, there's definitely a handful of characters that didn't show up during it as well, which we will be talking about in this video. So let's talk about who's going to be appearing in the movie. I have definitely split up everything to go over some of the main Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and the Thunderbolts, just to kind of break them off into their own sections. So first of all, we're going to talk about Chris Hemsworth's Thor being in it. And we know after Thor Love and Thunder, he's off doing his own thing, exploring the galaxy. So I'm kind of wondering how he's going to be involved in this. But it does make sense that Thor is going to be appearing once again because he is a main Avenger and he's a big character that would make sense to appear. It does definitely make me wonder what they're going to do with Love. Is she going to appear as well alongside Thor, or is she going to get lost somewhere else and have to be rescued? Then we got Anthony Mackie's Captain America. Honestly, makes so much sense. He has to put together the new Avengers team, so you got to have Captain America part of that. And we even have Danny Ramirez, the Falcon, during it, which I'm actually shocked. I didn't think he'd be in this movie. I thought they might have mentioned him, but he wouldn't be a big part in it. But they showed him so early in the casting, it feels like he's going to be a bigger part of the movie than originally thought of. Then we had Tom Hiddleston's Loki coming back, and it begs the question, is this another multiversal variant, or is this going to be the one that we saw during Loki Season 2 that became the god of stories at the end of the season? And if it is, that would be a fantastic time to have that Thor and Loki reunion because of the fact that Thor lost Loki during Infinity War. This is technically the same Loki, but from earlier in the timeline, who left during Avengers. So he doesn't have all that buildup of being that brother with Thor. However, he saw all of it with the TVA showing him all those memories. But there's a possibility that he'll have this connection with our Thor because of him being the god of stories, seeing all the stories throughout the multiverse and knowing what happened to his. And there could be like this really nice reunion about Thor thinking it's his Loki, but then, you know, coming to the realization it's not, and just having this really good moment between two brothers. But also a reunion we've been waiting for, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out on screen. Then we got Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and of course we have to have Paul Rudd coming back. Like, we had Ant-Man being a main character in Endgame. You know, he helped push that story along, and I'm kind of curious to see what his role is going to be here. And, you know, he's also just a fantastic character to have, and I'm sure the Wasp is going to come back as well, because now they're both a pair, and it wouldn't make sense to have one and not the other. Then we have Letitia Wright coming back as Shuri, Black Panther, which makes sense once again. Had a feeling that she would be appearing in the Avengers. However, I wasn't sure what kind of role she would have because Wakanda is kind of doing their own thing. But it's great to see that they're continuing with the Black Panther, that she will return. And I'm sure she's going to run into a variant of T'Challa Black Panther as well and have an emotional moment with him. And even with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, we also have Teknok Hirita. No idea if I'm pronouncing this right at all, so I apologize for the butchering of the name. But Namor is coming back. And I honestly am surprised they didn't forget about this character. It's great to see him. He's going to be returning because, you know, Namor is a big character in the Marvel comics. And it would make sense that we're also going to be having him in the Avengers movie. But it's also fun because him and Sue Storm have somewhat of a interesting relationship in the comics. And I'm curious to see how they're kind of going to go into that and if they're even going to interact within this movie. We have Winston Duke coming back, who does play M'Baku during the Black Panther movies. And I'm actually surprised to see him as well, mostly because he's not like a main character, even though he has played some big roles within the Black Panther movies, helped out in Infinity War, and he was focused on quite a bit during Wakanda Forever, and even challenged to be king at the end of that movie with Shuri not being there, which I think made him de facto the new King of Wakanda. We definitely have to have the King of Wakanda during this movie with Black Panther being involved, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with his character, and if they might make him also a Black Panther because of him becoming the King of Wakanda. We also have Simu Liu coming in, which is Shang-Chi. You know, Shang-Chi is finally back. They didn't forget about the character. We're finally wrapping up with him after not seeing him for so many goddamn years now, and I'm so glad that we're finally catching up with him because I've been missing some Shang-Chi, and I've been wanting him to appear once again after they set up his sequel in Shang-Chi that we never really dove anywhere into because we haven't got an announcement for his second movie whatsoever, and now he's appearing in an Avengers Doomsday movie. Then we have the whole cast of the Fantastic Four appearing. We have Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Woman, Joseph Quinn as Human Torch, Eben Moss Backrack as The Thing. I still think I pronounced it wrong. I'm honestly bad at pronouncing names, so I'm sorry. And then we have Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. And of course, it makes sense that they're appearing. Fantastic Four is coming out this summer, which the movies have been slowly setting up what's to come for Avengers Doomsday with Incursions and Battleworld. So I'm sure that something's going to happen here that ties them into this movie. Maybe they get trapped on another Earth, or we find out that they're actually on another Earth after going through space and going through a wormhole, and now they have to find their way back to the main MCU or something along those lines. So it's just exciting to see that they're being involved in Avengers Doomsday. And then of course, it makes sense as well because they are a big part of the Secret War storyline with with Doom during the comics, so it makes sense that they're also going to be a big part of this movie as well. And then the last main kind of MCU Avenger that showed up was Robert Downey Jr. At the very end of the live stream, he finally appeared, but honestly, we already know who he's playing because he's playing Doctor Doom. Well, at least a version of Doctor Doom. You know, he might only be a proxy that ends up revealing who the real Doctor Doom is, and that Doctor Doom taking over, and Robert Downey Jr. is just in this movie to give it hype and kind of get us excited for what's to come. But we will see how his role plays out and, you know, what they're going to be doing with him. We then have the X-Men appearing in this with a bunch of the different characters, which definitely feels like they're setting up a somewhat of an X-Men and Avengers crossover, which could be X-Men versus Avengers, with Doom pitting the teams against one another to make them fight one another until they come to the realization that they have to team up to go after God Emperor Doom. But with these characters, we have Kelsey Grammer coming back as the Beast, which could be teasing that this is the Beast we saw at the end of the Marvels, where we saw Monica Rambeau get lost on another Earth, which this could be his Beast because they had him so far up in the order for the characters that they were revealing. And it would make a lot of sense because of the incursions going on. Monica gets sent to another Earth, a variant of her mother. We see the Beast. We get talked about Professor Xavier. It just makes sense that, you know, this Beast is not the one from the original X-Men films, but actually the one from that post-credit scene. And I'm very excited to see what they do with him, because then we end up finding out that Patrick Stewart is coming back as Professor X, and Ian McKellen is coming back as Magneto. We have Alan Cumming coming back as Nightcrawler. We have Rebecca Romijn coming back as Mystique, which I was actually very surprised about this one. We have James Marsden coming back as Cyclops. So just all the X-Men characters from the original X-Men movies are coming back. I'm actually surprised we didn't get like other ones like Rogue, Colossus, or Jean Grey. And I was going to say that Cyclops died during the original X-Men films, but after Days of Future Past, it kind of corrected the timeline, and Cyclops was now alive, and Jean Grey was back to being a good person. So, you know, I'm curious to see what they're going to do. But I'm just in general very excited to see these main X-Men characters with the X-Men movies I grew up on coming back on screen and having this final send-off for their movies and hopefully being recast for the main MCU. Plus, we got Channing Tatum coming back as Gambit, which I'm betting any money that this is going to be the Gambit that we saw during Deadpool and Wolverine, because he got sent back to his universe at the end of that movie. It would make sense for him to come back, and it's honestly just a fantastic thing to see that Channing Tatum's getting another shot at being Gambit after he had his first solo movie canceled. He wasn't going anywhere with it. Then he got a little cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, and now he's coming back for an Avengers movie. So it's just awesome to see Channing Tatum get to be the character he's always wanted to play, and he's appearing more than we actually thought he was going to. After all that, we also have the Thunderbolts coming in, which honestly, this kind of spoils the Thunderbolts in a way, because it just shows that the movie has no stakes. Like, we know there's this team of people that want to be better. They're heroes in their own way. Not all of them are perfect. However, it kind of shows that even though they're going against the Void, a very big threat that none of these characters can take on their own, they're somehow going to survive it all. Other than Taskmaster, because Taskmaster was the only one not announced during all of this, and she's barely been in any of the promotional footage after the first trailer. So it definitely shows that Taskmaster is not making it out of that movie alive, and she'll probably be the first to go as soon as the Void awakens. However, in Avengers Doomsday, we have Florence Pugh coming back as Yelena Belova. We have Sebastian Stan coming back as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Wyatt Russell, U.S. Agent, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Hannah John Kamen as Ghost, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing Ghost interact with Ant-Man once again because of what happened after Ant-Man and the Wasp 2. So I think that could be a little fun scene of him seeing that she's gotten better and she's kind of gone more into the light of being a hero rather than going into being a villain. We also have Louis Pullman coming in, the Sentry, aka Bob, who's going to be the main villain of the Thunderbolts with the Void, but after the Thunderbolts, he'll become the Sentry, become that hero, and then he'll be teaming up with the Avengers, which honestly makes sense. I was kind of theorizing that was going to happen because he's such a big, powerful character. It would make sense to have him in this movie. So it's just cool to see that they're continuing with all these characters and that they're all going to be leading up to something. Because right now, it's also been kind of that question with all these random movies and series we've gone, like, how is this going to lead into the next Avengers film? How is this going to lead into the next crossover? Of course, not everything needs to lead into it, but Marvel, of course, pushes everything to lead into it. And I was really wondering how Thunderbolts would even, tie into everything. So it is cool to see that they're going to be part of this movie and that they're going to be playing somewhat of a role. I thought out of all of them, at least only Bucky would be playing a role because of Bucky being friends with Sam and being a big part of the Captain America stuff. However, it's nice to see everyone else is joining as well. However, with all of this going on, there is definitely a handful of characters we haven't seen announced yet, with one of them being Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Like, he's a big part of the X-Men films, and he was in Deadpool and Wolverine, and I'm surprised they didn't announce him whatsoever. I'm sure he's still going to be showing up in either Doomsday or Secret Wars. I'm surprised he wasn't announced during this, because I feel like it's a huge character to get people hyped for. Then we got Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, another big character that we know is joining the MCU. We had his whole movie talking about joining the MCU, and I'm surprised he's not in Doomsday, which I'm sure he will appear, either in Doomsday or Secret Wars. Like, there's no way he's not showing up in one of these two Avengers movies, but I am surprised he wasn't a part of that announcement. Again, another big character. Probably the biggest shock out of all of this is Tom Holland's Spider-Man not being announced. Mostly because, well, it's Spider-Man. We expect him to be in the Avengers movies now after everything that's gone on with the character. However, we don't really know what's going on with him right now after No Way Home. We know he's going to have a Spider-Man 4 movie, which is rumored to take place between Doomsday and Secret Wars, which might be why he's not part of the cast of Doomsday, because he'll be doing his own thing with his movie and then teaming up with everyone for Secret Wars. So we'll definitely see when it comes to that how they're going to play with that. We also have Mark Ruffalo's Hulk and Tatiana Maslany's She-Hulk, because of the fact that in the leaked concept art, they showed the Hulk and She-Hulk together in this Hulk world for Battle World. So it definitely teases that those characters are in this movie, but I'm surprised they weren't announced, because Mark Ruffalo, the Hulk, is a main character in the Avengers, and I'm actually shocked that he wasn't announced, and that Thor, out of everyone, was the first person that they showed, even though we haven't seen him since Love and Thunder. Then we have Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. Like, Captain Marvel is slowly becoming bigger and bigger in the MCU, and I'm just surprised she wasn't revealed in it. I'm sure she'll be coming in by Secret Wars. Like, most characters are going to be in the movie by Secret Wars, just because of how big of an event it's going to be, but I'm actually surprised with Doomsday, like, because of how many characters they announced, which I wasn't expecting, like, half of them. I am surprised we didn't get more of those main Marvel characters that we have in the MCU right now, rather than going for the X-Men, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four being part of all of that, without having like Captain Marvel, the Hulk, Hawkeye, and all the original Avengers that we normally see in the earlier movies. And then also another character that I was shocked that wasn't announced with Teyonah Parris, who is playing Monica Rambeau. Like I said before, Monica is trapped on the other Earth with the Beast and the other version of her mother. So I'm surprised that she wasn't announced, because I feel like that's going to be a big part of the incursions and all that storyline, and it would make sense for her to appear. Plus, the Guardians weren't announced either, which I think makes sense that they weren't there, just because they are the Guardians. I feel like they would make more sense coming in at Secret Wars rather than Doomsday, kind of keep them separate for now. Even though I think Star-Lord is definitely appearing because of that leaked concept art, so Chris Pratt, I was actually shocked wasn't announced either. And then other characters I'm surprised weren't announced were like Doctor Strange is a very big one, because Doctor Strange is already going to solve an incursion, so it would make sense that he would appear in Doomsday. We even saw him in that concept art, but I've also been hearing that that concept art might actually be for Secret Wars rather than Doomsday, which is kind of odd because they're filming Doomsday first, and it's weird to do Secret Wars first. However, it does make sense to be Secret Wars because of it being on Battleworld, but I still feel like they're going to be going straight into Battleworld for Doomsday. They'll have to figure out how to take down God Emperor Doom, and then it'll lead into the big conflict where they're going to have to recruit everyone for Secret Wars. Plus, a lot of people were hoping to get an Elizabeth Olsen one because of the fact that we don't know what's going on with Scarlet Witch, and it would make sense that maybe she didn't die and then she somehow got with God Emperor Doom to involve her in this storyline. Plus, she's a huge actress and a huge character, and a lot of people want to see her again. So maybe we will see her, and, you know, they're just not releasing everyone just yet because this is only 27 people when there's supposed to be like 50 or more. So I'm sure they just gave us a little tease, and there's more to be announced later. And then the Eternals. I mean, this is less of a shock that the Eternals weren't announced in it, mostly because, like, didn't get perceived that well, but they are so a big character in the MCU now, so I'm just shocked that at least one of them didn't show up. But I'm sure we'll see something happening. Like, there's so much speculation that could be happening with these movies. There's so many characters that still need to appear in the MCU. And I think it would be pretty bad to just shove them all in these Avengers movie, because it just would be way too many characters to follow. That's the only concern I have with the 27 cast members that are coming up for this movie, is that it's just so many people. Like, Endgame already had so many. Like, there was only like 5 to 10 minutes of screen time per character, and it feels like that's not enough. Like, I'd rather focus on a smaller group and then have maybe a couple different movies or different shows that showed us what was actually going on with side characters. Just like how you have connecting comics, it would be great if they use the Disney Plus specials and series to kind of show us other stories that are happening if there's going to be like this Battle World story, the multiverse, and having all this other stuff going on at the same time as the main Avengers movie. Obviously, that doesn't make money though, so they want to shove as much as they can into a movie so they can make as much money as they want. We'll see. I'm a little concerned with the amount of people that are going to be in this movie, but I'm also really excited to see characters that we haven't seen in a while finally come back and actually interact with the larger MCU universe. But let me know, what do you think of these casting announcements? What do you think is going to be going on during this movie, and how do you think each character is going to be involved? Because right now, I'm kind of theorizing that the X-Men are going to go against the Avengers for a short time, and then they're going to team up to go against God Emperor Doom. The Fantastic Four is going to run into the Avengers, figure out what's going on. They probably won't fight each other, but, you know, they'll ally with each other. And then the Thunderbolts, I feel like they'll be together. Bucky will be with them, find Sam, and then they'll team up and put all these characters slowly together as they explore wherever they're going to be. If it's going to be Battleworld or if it's going to be on Earth, like, they're going to slowly come together as these characters have to go against God Emperor Doom, because now they got to figure a way to get back to their main universe after whatever happens during this movie and how they set it up. I mean, until we get another movie that kind of teases Avengers and sets up that next movie, it's really hard to figure out where it's going to begin. Because from the lead concept art, we have an idea that it's already starting on Battleworld. If it's already starting on Battleworld, that means something has to happen before before that. Either the movie's just going to start them on Battle World, we're going to get flashbacks to what happened, the Avengers lost, or that it was just happening without them knowing. We're going to have like one of the movies like Fantastic Four, the end of it's going to tease God Emperor Doom making Battle World, and then that's where we'll get to the next Avengers movie when it eventually comes out. So there's still just a bunch to kind of figure out. I feel like Thunderbolts is also going to set this up now in some way. Maybe they get trapped in another universe because of the void, but we'll see. I'm speculating. There's still a bunch of stuff to talk about, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you like speculating with me, and I want to know your thoughts on everything that we just talked about. So let me know, and if you like this video, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my DC, Marvel, and anime breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and if you're watching Daredevil, make sure to check out my Daredevil breakdowns. I had one post yesterday for episode 5 and 6, and if you like Harley Quinn, I did post my final episode breakdown last week, so make sure you check that one out as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later when it's time to break down more Marvel and DC content.